All right, hello everybody. This is a late night video, insomniac video, because I can't sleep, and I was going to make this video tomorrow, but I'm like, well, I'll just throw it together tonight. So we'll see how I do. This might have been a mistake. So I want to talk about the San Francisco meeting between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, because I guess of like everything that I've learned about this case and some of the things that really pissed me off, obviously, that Amber Heard did, and some of the things that I find to be really tragic about the situation and the way it unfolded. This San Francisco meeting and the way that Amber Heard engineered it and the effect that it had on Johnny Depp, as described in these texts to Christian Carino, we'll talk about that in a moment. It's one of the things I think that is most fascinating to me, and also sad and tragic, and makes me angry at Amber Heard as well for the manipulation of this, just blatant manipulation. So here's the thing, just quickly, and then I'm going to get to these texts that are what I really wanted to talk about tonight. Amber Heard and Johnny Depp divorce. Amber finds out in the spring of 2016 that Johnny Depp wants a divorce, and so she files for divorce first to kind of get the jump on him for various reasons we're not going to talk about right now. See my other videos. And one of the things that she does to try to get a larger financial settlement out of him, to basically try to blackmail him for a larger financial settlement in the divorce, is when she sometime around the same time that she files for divorce, she also files for a TRO, or a restraining order, as it's commonly called. And so this was in, May of 2016. And then the strange thing happens is over the summer, she has this restraining order now. And so they're bound by the restraining order. As you know, they're not supposed to be communicating, or at least, and certainly Johnny Depp at least, is not supposed to be in any contact with Amber Heard. Now, one of the things I want to clarify is that Amber Heard's she filed an application, a TRO application for a restraining order in May of 2016. And that whole summer, it was in effect in the sense that Johnny was not supposed to violate this, but it was a kind of a temporary thing, because it ended up, that TRO application that she'd filed, the restraining order application, ended up being dismissed in August. So right after the San Francisco meetings. And so so they have a mutual friend, Christian Carino. And of course, as you know, Christian Carino was for a time Lady Gaga's fiance until she broke it off, but seems to be, by all accounts, a nice guy. A really important agent, actor's agent for CAA. The company is CAA, which is this really famous agency for people in media, Hollywood industries. So anyway, he's this like powerhouse of an agent, and he is Johnny Depp's agent, and then I'm not sure if he became Amber Heard's agent kind of through Johnny Depp, or how that happened, but the point is, like, they both become not friends with him. So it's not only a professional thing for both of them, but it's also a personal thing. And there have been pictures taken before of Amber Heard, for instance, having dinner with Christian Carino and so forth. So one of the things that has come out in the legal process that has been ongoing for the UK trial and also for the Virginia trial coming up is that some texts have been released, authenticated texts have been released that show conversations between Christian Carino and Amber Heard, and also concurrent conversations between Christian Carino and Johnny Depp. And so it's interesting to see him as sort of a locus for both of them here. And they were using him as a conduit to communicate, because Amber had filed this, for bullshit reasons, had filed this restraining order. And so Johnny Depp was not supposed to be communicating with her. And so when she wanted to communicate with Johnny Depp, get a message, Johnny Depp respected the TRO, but Amber Heard did not, and so she would try to communicate with Johnny Depp through Christian Carino at times. And so once she opened that line of communication, then he would try to do that as well. Well, here's the thing. Amber Heard contacted over the summer of 2016, so not long after she filed this restraining order where she was supposedly in fear for her life, and she did the whole walk of shame and everything in front of the courthouse that I've talked about in my earlier videos. Well, she at some point, apparently over that summer, later on contacts Christian Carino and asks him if she can meet with Johnny Depp, and she's apparently very desperate to meet with him, despite the fact that she's filed a restraining order against him, and he's not supposed to, and she's supposed to be terrified of him, etc., right? And so Carino apparently passes this message on to Johnny Depp, and Johnny Depp, by this time, you know, sadly, his resolve has apparent, and this is one of the interesting things that I got from this whole event, and from the text that came out, is that Johnny Depp, you know, as happens often in these cases, Johnny Depp's resolve to leave Amber had begun to fade. And so, you know, he had resolved in the spring, he had been the one who had wanted the divorce, and he had resolved in the spring to divorce her, and then he had let her know, and so she had asked if she could go ahead and file for divorce first, for reasons I won't get into, strategic stuff. And so anyway, you know, he had wanted that divorce. The marriage had become so poisonous, and she was so abusive, and then there was the whole supposed shitting in the bed that she or one of her friends did, and that she sort of basically admitted to one of the staff. Anyway, the point is, like, all these things had happened, and he wanted a divorce. Well, apparently, what I get from this is that his resolve had weakened to the point where he was willing to meet with Amber in San Francisco, and he was meeting with her with the idea that they could reconcile. He was wanting a reconciliation. So, you know, one thing, I talked about how I found this event to be tragic. And I think one of the things that's tragic is that you see just how much he loved her, that even after all this she had done, I mean, let's not forget that she had just like a couple of months before, she had publicly branded him a wife beater and tried to ruin his reputation, and was still in the process of it, basically. She hadn't recanted anything at this point. And yet he still, I mean, she had her emotional hooks in him so much, so well, that, as typically happens in these situations where it's hard for abuse victims to leave, he was wanting to go back to her. And so if we look at these texts, and so apparently what happened is that they met up in San Francisco, and we don't know exactly, you know, what happened, but what we do know comes from the texts that Johnny sent to Christian Carino. And so I want to look at some of these, and thanks to Grindelwald on Twitter for posting these where they're all in one central location. So I'm going to go through these texts and explain them. And I just think I'm doing this little video. This is not one of my usual long videos with lots of, you know, pictures and video and stuff. One of those is coming later on this next week on a different celebrity topic. But I wanted to go through these because I think they're really interesting. And I think this is, like I said, it's one of the most interesting episodes in the whole sad and sordid saga of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So apparently, after they had this meeting in San Francisco, this is what they had, at least initially, at least it seems like the first night that and I'm not saying anything went on between them, but there was some kind of a reconciliation, or a desire for reconciliation, that Amber indicated to Johnny. So she was leading him on here, and Johnny was thinking that she wanted a reconciliation, that was partly what this was about. So he texts Carino, and he says, "It feels like a dream and a nightmare all in one. It was difficult to not die when our eyes met. I have no choice but to dive into those pools of green." He's talking about Amber's eyes. "They represent every millisecond of what we had. I miss her. I love her. I always will, as will she." And then he says, "There were some difficult things to swallow, but one either swallows or chokes." Now, it's interesting how he's remembering their time together in a fond sense. He says those eyes of hers, when I look into them, it represents every millisecond of what we had. And I think it's interesting to remember that there is a reason why victims of abuse keep going back to the abuser, as with the case with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. And by the way, for those who are just coming to this video without seeing my others, if you're wondering why I'm saying Johnny Depp is the victim and Amber Heard is the abuser, please look at any of my other videos on the topic. All right, there's lots out there. And anyway, and so, but one of the reasons why abuse victims keep coming back to their abusers is because it's not like it's all terror. Okay, most of the time it's really good. with a lot of, a lot of bad stuff punctuating that, right? And so she was extremely abusive to him and hurt him, and even cut off, as we know, cut off his finger at one point, and would berate him constantly. And yet there were doubtless all of these wonderful things in their relationship, and there was a kind of magic to it. And that's one of the things that experts on the cycle of domestic violence and abuse in romantic relationships, that's one of the things that experts talk about, is how there is this cycle. And yes, there's the abuse and the horrible things, but there's also the excitement of the relationship. And it's often these relationships are very passionate and intense. And Johnny Depp is clearly someone who appreciates a passionate, off-kilter personality. So he was probably also willing to make larger allowances for Amber Heard than maybe some people would, especially since, again, given the fact that his mother was extremely abusive, and he said about her before that she was the meanest person he ever met. So there's precedent there. Now, he says here, I miss her, I love her, I always will, as will she. Now, notice here, Johnny Depp says in this text, he says that after they had this meeting in San Francisco that they shouldn't have been having, but that, according to the restraining order, but that Amber Heard really pushed for, because she's so afraid of Johnny Depp, right? But after they had this meeting, at least this first night, she had given him the impression that she was interested in reconciling, because he says, I will always love her, as will she, right? As in the present tense, like she still loves me. And she was sending him, we know that she was sending him some of these signals, because one of the things too that Jennifer Howell testified about Whitney Heard, Amber's sister, or I think it was her testimony, or it was the letter that she wrote, was that one of the things that Whitney Heard, Amber's sister, had told Jennifer Howell is that Johnny and Amber were still in contact even after all this went down and Amber filed for divorce and all that. They were still in contact for a while, and that they were telling each other that they were each other's true loves, even though it didn't work out. So Amber was telling him this stuff, even while we know she was dating Elon Musk and, telling him that she loved him and all of that. Now, when Johnny says here at the end, there were some difficult things to swallow from this meeting that he had with her, but one either swallows or chokes, I think what he means is that he was hoping for a reconciliation here, and there was a lot of stuff he had to forgive. I like, her cheating on him with Elon Musk, among others, like her going out and in public and pretending that he had put a bruise on her face and calling him a wife beater and all of this. I mean, she had gone after him like most of us wouldn't even go after our enemies. And here he is, it's heartbreaking, saying, well, I've just got to swallow it, because I love her so much. Sad. It's sad. And he's a good man. So then apparently, and again, I'm not exactly sure on how much time had elapsed between Johnny Depp's first text to Christian Carino or not, but when the second one came, apparently something had changed. Because remember, the first text had indicated that he was working on a reconciliation of sorts with Amber Heard and so forth. And now in this second text to Carino, this is what he says. I don't know what to say. Apparently she wants to go ahead with the divorce and then attempt a reconciliation. I need to think, man. Now get this. Amber Heard now is according to this, was telling Johnny Depp that she wanted to get a divorce and then get back together. Now that makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. And poor Johnny, he's like still sort of trying to swallow it, to believe it, right? I mean, we know it sounds insane. If someone loves you, if they still want to be with you, they're not going to say, yeah, let's get a divorce and then we'll get back together. That's the kind of bullshit that you tell somebody when you're trying to placate them or whatever, or lead them on. And that's exactly what's going on here. And yet again, Johnny is like, you can see that he's trying to make it work in his head, And then he says and then he continues, Christian Carino, he says, what I wanted was a fresh start with my wife, which I thought was what she wanted. She should do what she really feels. If her priorities are not us, then I will proceed and do what I have to do. I dangle no more. So here you can see now he's starting to sort of get in the spirit of the truth of what's really going on. You know, he says, I wanted a fresh start with my wife. I wanted to remain married. Okay. But she, you know, her priorities are not us. Okay. So he's starting to get it here, but it's, you know, you can just tell that Amber Heard, for this time they were together in San Francisco, she was really manipulating him, and that she started off, you know, really making him think that she still loved him and she still wanted to be with him and all of that. And then she starts shifting into this, well, you know, we can get a divorce and then see what happens and then get back together. Oh, man. Okay. Now, at the same time, Amber Heard is texting Christian Carino, and understand that both Amber Heard and Johnny Depp know that Carino is talking to the other person. And so there's an extent we have to understand that their texts are also meant for another audience. It's not just Carino, right? So Amber Heard tells Carino this in her text then about that weekend. So she texted him apparently at some point during this weekend too, in San Francisco. I'm afraid I'm setting myself up to fall back in again. It was so hard to leave him. I've been through too much, and I see no future in this. And every time I see him, it's like my chest is ripped open and every piece of my soul is ground down to a pulp. Seeing him in San Francisco, I have been a complete mess. I literally have been sobbing all day and night. Now, she's really trying to put on this show. What she's actually doing, and we know this again based on so much that we know about her personality and her actions. And again, if you think I'm getting this out of nowhere, please go look at my other videos before you judge. But, you know, we know that she's very manipulative and she's trying to manipulate him and through Christian Carino. And so she wants Johnny Depp to think that she's genuine, that she is not scheming, that doesn't have ulterior motives, right? That everything that she's presenting to him and saying to him in San Francisco is genuine. So she's really laying it on thick with Christian Carino about how much I'm suffering and how much I still love him and all of that. And notice the difference between how Johnny Depp expresses himself to Christian Carino and how Amber Heard expresses herself to Christian Carino. Amber Heard is very dramatic. It's very melodramatic. It's you know, it's like all of these superlatives. Like, it was so hard, and my heart was ripped out every time. I've been a complete mess. I literally have been sobbing all day and night. Okay, and so that versus the way Johnny Depp expresses himself, which is, it's much more simple. It's much more to the point, and also it just feels more real. It feels like the way that you really talk when you're feeling something, where it's not this all put on melodramatic stuff. And that's just my analysis of this, but that's what I see. So this Amber Heard, that's, you know, her talking to Carino. All right. And then apparently sometime after the San Francisco meeting, then apparently Amber Heard's attorneys start accusing Johnny Depp of breaking the restraining order, trying to break the restraining order. And so, you know, some have even speculated that Amber Heard engineered this meeting in San Francisco just to try to make it look like Johnny Depp was breaking the restraining order. I don't know what really came of that or the extent to which that was the case or whatever, but it's been suggested. But so then at some point not long after the San Francisco meeting, Johnny Depp texts Christian Carino and he says, man, her attorneys are telling mine that I am calling and harassing her by phone. Is that them? Is that them doing that, or is that her? In other words, is that coming from them or is that coming from Amber? Does she really think that I've been harassing her? First, I'm apparently stalling the divorce and now harassing her. She'd better put a couple of, and then this is the part too where people say, oh, Depp is angry or abusive, but come on and think of everything that she's and her lawyers have done to him. And now she's manipulated him emotionally and all. No. So he says, she better put a couple of ball gags in her fucking lawyers' mouths and tighten them up. She doesn't want to work anything out. Her lawyers want to settle because they would die 1,000 deaths in court. So she wants me all softened up to settle up nice. That's what it looks like. Now, here's where Johnny figures out what was really going on with the San Francisco meeting, is that she was trying to soften him up emotionally. So he would agree to her terms, or to agree to what she wanted. And what does she want? Well, for one thing, she wanted, as a settlement to their divorce situation, she wanted him to make all of these public concessions in a statement that would basically absolve her of these things people were saying about her, that she was making stuff up, that she was a gold digger, etc., etc. And so she was basically wanting Johnny Depp to fall on his sword for her and for these stupid, evil things that she had done and said about him. And so she had to butter him up. So she made this production of the San Francisco meeting, and I still love you, and no, this is my lawyers, this is not me doing this, and maybe we can get back together even after the divorce and all of that. And so he's realizing here that's what that was about. It was about manipulation. All right. And then Carino texts Depp and reminds him that he can't get in trouble, surely, because Amber's the one who's requested that meeting in San Francisco. And so he's saying, Amber requested this meeting. Surely the fact that she's encouraging this contact between you, it's got to matter if you get in trouble for breaking the restraining order. And Carino says, the fact that she asked to see you and traveled to see you has to be problematic for her, right? And it clearly is. This is not a woman who's afraid of this man and is trying to do everything she can to get away from him and so forth. It's just not. It's just not. And now Depp continues in this conversation. Also, apparently, she filed papers to say that I've broken the restraining order by texting, speaking to her, seeing her in San Francisco. With all the bullshit I'm going through with this, send me to county for breaking the restraining order, some of which, as you can guess, that she was more than complicit with. I couldn't give a fucking rat's ass if she wants her name cleared, which can no longer happen in terms of the public's opinion, and more than likely the people who run her profession, a product of choice by people. In the public's eye, she has no fucking better than Anna Nicole Smith. Her trip to San Francisco was a ruse to clear her reputation, and I fell for it. Yet another lie. And then he says to Carino, tell me I'm wrong. Which, of course, he can't, because Johnny Depp's not wrong. And so notice the things that Johnny Depp is saying here. First of all, that she was trying to trap him into getting in trouble for breaking the restraining order, even though she was encouraging it. That she was in a kind of a trap now because Amber Heard had ruined her reputation with a number of people in, he says, her profession in Hollywood. She had people, this stunt that she had pulled, had a number of people in the media criticizing her and doubting her and so forth. And he's saying she wants me to clear her name and to admit to all this, or say it's true, or that she didn't lie. And I can't. But that's what that was about. All right. And then he says, she's never brought up the notion of clearing my name as a wife beater. She doesn't want me fucking mad. I've tried to get her away from her monkey-ass lawyers. Sorry for the rant, but I am flabbergasted by the truth she gives me and the truth she actually applies when it's time to save herself from being caught in a legal fib. Yeah, man, she really loved me the other day. Again, he makes reference to the fact that when they met up in San Francisco, especially that initial meeting, that she seemed, and he was texting Carino about how, he had to dive back into those eyes, so to speak, because he loved her so much and all that. And he's like, yeah, she really loved me. I see now it was just a ruse. It was just a ruse. And he says, and what he's saying here is like, Amber was so concerned with clearing her name, and that's what she kept bringing up to Johnny, and that's what she was buttering up for, is how can we clear my name of the shit I've done publicly? But she has no interest, never brought up clearing his name, right? Whose reputation was in a worse position after what she did? Hers or Johnny Depp's, whom like most of the world thought was a wife beater after that? And he said, but it's very narcissistic, and he recognizes that. She's so concerned with the truth or with misrepresenting or re-representing the truth about her situation, about what she did, but not about me or the way that she's ruined my reputation, right? Classic narcissistic behavior. And then he goes on, I'm not going to read these other texts, but he goes on to complain to Christian Carino about how her attorneys are leaking all of this stuff to the New York Post and so forth to try to make him look bad. And then he says, and he's begging Carino to intercede. He says, please ask her to focus on the solution right now, not the problem or the past. My brother, I'll be honest with you. I am actually fearful for her. As the clock ticks, if there is not a proper solution agreed to by the end of tonight, then we have arrived at the weekend, meaning it's court beginning next week. It'll be a shitstorm. There is no way to fathom the gravity of what she and I will suffer. An agony that we will carry on our backs forever. I mean, you know, and he's so prescient here of like seeing exactly the significance of all this and what she is unleashing, you know. It's really kind of like it's sort of like that metaphor of like Pandora's box. And Pandora, you know, sort of, well, I'm kind of messing up the myth here, but she sort of, you know, carelessly opens this up and then all of this stuff flies out that she hadn't anticipated. And Johnny Depp is basically trying to say, let's put this stuff back in the box before it really gets out of hand. And of course now it is. And you have to think that Amber Heard, I wonder if there's some part of her that's like, God, what an idiot I was. I've just dug myself in. You know, she could have walked away from Johnny Depp with her reputation intact and $7 million and whatever, okay? But she had to pull all these stunts and then just dig herself in deeper. And now look at where she is. And so it's interesting. He says, I'm actually fearful for her. You know, here he is. He's worried about her. Of course, he should be fearful for himself too, right? Here he is. He's still partly worrying about her. Now, sometime after this, that's all we have with Johnny Depp and Christian Carino. But sometime after this, after Elon Musk breaks up with Amber, she texts Christian Carino. She says, Christian, do you think he, meaning Johnny Depp, he and I will ever speak again? Does he hate me? I don't see why or how we could just stop talking to each other, or how or why we could both want to talk to each other either. You know, what's she doing here? It's like she's trying to extend, you know, she's trying to manipulate again here. And Christian Carino advised her to leave it alone for a while, but she kept persisting, right? Wanted to talk to him. And then when Elon breaks up with her, she says, dealing with the breakup, I hate it when things go public. See, Christian, I'm so sad. And then Carino reminds her, he says, you weren't in love with him, with Elon, and you told me 1,000 times you were just filling space. Good for Christian Carino, right? I mean, someone having some guts to speak up to her. And then she says, yeah, I know. I just hate that, again, a man lets me fall on the spikes by myself. Meaning, they are mad at me for leaving them and put things like this out there, like that. Now, she has such a sense of like a persecution complex here, because Elon Musk broke up with her, and you can look at my video on Elon Musk, okay, for this, but Elon Musk broke up with her because she brought it upon herself. She was being somewhat dishonest and shady and whatever, and that's why he broke up with her. And so, but here she is, like, a man has she says, a man lets me fall on the spikes by myself. In other words, like, basically Elon Musk is like pushed her onto these spikes and she's impaled. You know, what a martyr she is. It's just, I don't know. It's just such a persecution complex for things that she's done to herself. But again, that's common with personality disorders. So then Christian Carino tells her, he says, you should stop dating uber famous people. And then she says, well, you should take your own advice. She didn't like that, you know, talking about Lady Gaga and the fact that he was dating Lady Gaga. Then she says to him, I'm devastated. I want to give up. Nothing has ever broken my heart more than losing Johnny Depp. And it has always been that way. Christian, do you ever think we could ever speak again? I don't know how to ever survive. I mean, she's so dramatic, too. It's all of these cliches, too. It's like when she writes, it's almost like it's like some novel that she read, you know, and now this is like her template, which we talked about the mimicry and stuff, but this is like her template for how to behave. It doesn't feel like real human expression in some ways. And then she says, I've written so many notes. Like notes to Johnny Depp. I've written so many notes. Can you give him one? I don't know how or where to start. There's no way to begin, end all I have to say, but I have so many. Finally, I am single, clear in my heart and mind. I just want him to know I loved him and that I'm sorry. I mean, again, it's so melodramatic. I mean, who's writing this? Is it Scarlett O'Hara? That reference might go over some of your youngins' heads. And then, but very melodramatic. And the way that she tries to spin getting dumped by Elon as like a liberatory event, She says, finally, I am single, clear in heart and mind. You know, instead of, you know, I got dumped by this guy because he didn't want to put up with my shit either. Maybe literally, right? No. And so she's being so calculating, but then she's aware of how calculating she might look, because then she says to Carino, she texts him again and she says, also, I'm a little worried that if he, meaning Johnny, if he gets my letter now, it will seem like I'm doing so because of my breakup with Elon. Oh, gee, you think? You think it might seem that way, Amber? And then she says, God, I miss him. And then she says, I texted him happy birthday, but the text didn't go through. Probably for the best, but thought it was the right thing to do. Wanted to let you know. I mean, it's so calculating and conniving and everything. Kind of laughable if it weren't infuriating and tragic and all of that. Now, the last thing I wanted to address is what she was aiming at, you know, with all of this, which Johnny Depp understood, was that, you know, she wanted his help in absolving her of this stuff that she had done. And so what ended up happening is that when they reached a settlement on their divorce, not too long after this, Johnny Depp ended up releasing a statement with her that I think made him look bad. And again, I think that he ended up giving in to her, really, I think, in a number of ways on this statement. And so I want to read it to you. And you've probably, I know most of you have heard it before. So the statement said this. It said, our relationship was intensely passionate and at times volatile, but always bound by love. Neither party has made false accusations for financial gain. There was never any intent of physical or emotional harm. Now, let me tell you why this statement was such a concession from Johnny Depp and why it was unfortunately such a win for Amber Heard at the time in terms of PR. First of all, the first thing it says, our relationship was intensely passionate and at times volatile. Well, we know what that translates to. That is a kind of admission of violence. Now, you might say passion doesn't mean violence, volatility doesn't. No, but the connotation here is given the charges that she made against him of domestic violence, that would be that's the way I think most people would take it, unfortunately, even though we know he didn't abuse her and she was the abuser. And so that's one thing. Then it says, neither party has made false accusations for financial gain. Well, Johnny Depp's whole argument, or one huge pillar of his argument in favor of his innocence, is that Amber Heard originally made these allegations of domestic violence in order to procure a larger divorce settlement and better divorce terms, among other things. And so to concede here that no party has made allegations for financial, I mean, he's basically saying she didn't make anything up for money. Well, so why else would she make it up? You know, it's just, you see what I'm saying? It makes it, again, look like what she said was true, or that she didn't make it up. And then there was never any intent of physical or emotional harm. Intent, that's almost conceding that there was physical or emotional harm. It's like saying, yeah, I did do that, but I didn't mean to, right? So basically, I mean, I felt like this statement that they released was basically like just a big win for Heard. And it at the time, it was one of those things that made me think he was guilty. I hate to say, because I hadn't looked into it. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't until later that but then you read about the San Francisco meeting. And that's the significance of these texts to Christian Carino. And of what we've learned about this meeting is that you see why Johnny Depp allowed that bad statement to be released. That is because she had been working on him. It had been such a process of manipulation there. And so, you know, it's sad. It's very interesting. But I wanted to go over that. Like I said, this has not been my typical video, which I like to have lots of video clips for you and interviews and cool stuff and pictures and things. But I was in the mood tonight and insomnia and everything, and I think it's interesting. And so I hope that you enjoyed this. And I will have a video out on a different topic. Going to take a little break from Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and tackle something else. But I'll be coming back to this at some point. So please subscribe, because it really is helpful. And I'm hoping to monetize my channel as fast as possible. So that would be really great if you could subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.